Welcome to EXO Fleet's Insights, where every mile counts. The podcast where fleet data turns into real-world decisions. Each episode, we unpack what's really happening across mixed fleets, fuels and sites, and how better insights leads to better performance, lower costs, and fewer surprises on the road. So let's get into it.
And I heard that some of the lads in the office talk about like if it's a match day. So if the client is a bus company, they would plug in the match fixtures and then say, okay, buses are working to the max on that day, carrying that load if they needed to increase the schedule by 10% or 20%. So I suppose it's constantly taking all these permutations of what could happen. So you'd probably want telematics, weather, route, vehicle battery, ICE vehicles. And I understand as well, we're also APIing in some data from fuel card. And I had that conversation with somebody. I was saying, the fuel card data combined with the telematics data, because in certain circumstances as well, the guys just go into the petrol station and give a nominal number rather than the actual outdoor reading. So I suppose that's one of the things that's unique in our organisation. The team from an EV perspective have been doing this for 15 years. So they're not just relying on digital twin outcomes. They can overlay a layer of common sense. And when the system produces some weird and wonderful data, as can happen at all, they can, trace back. I think there's been some occurrences like that from telematics or something, is there?
Yeah, like again, because for digital twin and for the big data problem that can arise in these industries, your first step is to do data sanitization and to kind of make sure you are getting rid of those extreme points. A vehicle that says it's traveled negative 60 kilometers in a day, it means something has gone awfully wrong. You can't drive the car in reverse the whole day and expect it to show up like that. So yeah, we do need to take those scenarios in place. Again, not to pick on anything too specific, but for example, if you have a charger and you know that there's some issue on that side of the thing or with that brand, with this car, that allows us, or different vehicle brands having compatibility issues with certain charging, we can add that in and we can take that into account as well. But it's that experience that lets us know in the first place that, oh, hang on now, you need to take this into consideration. One thing I like about your example of match day is the idea of seeing it in real time. So if you have a lot of traffic building up and suddenly your vehicle is out en route but isn't progressing as much as it should, that can show up in central, in the hub, and be like, okay, what's up? And then you can either the driver, through whatever mechanism, can report back, oh, by the way, all the sheep have escaped, or there's cows on the road, there's unknown obstacle. Yeah, you wouldn't see that on the news, but it's something that is needs to be known. But it just lets, again, and then that route, if there's that segment affected by other routes, you can now pull out, okay, which routes also have that segment of road. Is that a persistent problem? A more real life example, I suppose, is the burst water main. Now, suddenly that diversion is going to need to be taken into account. And that's something that you could go, right, let me select that section. What routes are affected? Okay, well, what does it look like if we navigate around this obstacle? Does that mean that another vehicle needs to be deployed or redirected to deal with that scenario?
And I suppose that's the real benefit of this kind of technology. You can manage that live as opposed to dealing with it after the fact or dealing with anecdotal evidence from the driver. And you're there to support, because obviously the range anxiety is a big consideration for these guys as well.
Mapping that process means we have access to the historical data. And if we take the historical data and go, well, this is, and forecast into the future, we can go, well, this is what this process is likely to do. And then you can add in components to that of, okay, well, what about the reduction of efficiency? What about if the battery is, there's a lot of what ifs questions there. What if the battery is, has kind of battery strings that are loose, or if it's degrading, or if there's issues around percentage? You can kind of see what could happen, and then how would that impact your business, and then you can make mitigations to that. And that's just at the kind of the very low level. The level above that, again, is just around charging and power consumption, and trying to figure out, like, a big hassle on the no emission side is figuring out your power consumption, like how much power is actually going to be drawn. Well, if we have all the data around, well, we've used this much power the day before, likely to use this the day after, but you can add in things like, well, it's Christmas, so our power consumption is not the norm, it's above the average. So okay, let's map that out. Let's see what that does look like. Let's look at our historical data as is, and then you can kind of make decisions based on that as well, and kind of making decisions, making plans, trying to get the most out of your fleet, out of your vehicles is always the biggest challenge in this industry.
If anything you heard today reflects the challenges you're facing in your fleet, get in touch with us today at Exofleets. We're always happy to talk through real-world solutions. exofleets.com